All right. Hello, everybody. Hope you all are doing well. This is DFS Army's NBA pre-lock show. For yesterday, screw Isaiah Stewart. He ruined all the good stuff we had. Everything else went pretty well besides that.
Yeah,
But today's slate, nice little 4-gamer, 7:30. You're back, B-Dubs. You've been gone for a little bit. How are you doing, man?
doing good. Yeah, definitely want to forget about last night. Like if I played literally anybody but Stewart, I cash everything like clean sweep. So
Yep. Yep. It was,
whatever.
one of those. But new slate, this one doesn't kick off until 7:30, so we have a good amount of time. And, I love these smaller slates because we can get a little bit more in the weeds. Cujo, good to see you, man. New Q Lur said, what happened to the Super Bowl show? The Tactics show didn't happen. I hate showdown slates, so I didn't really plan on being there. And I didn't know about it until they reminded me. But the other guys couldn't join either. So Kevin, aka Football Geek, will have a Players Club show tomorrow. So definitely be around for that around noon if you're a member to either DFS Army or to the YouTube channel. So definitely be on the lookout for that. Appreciate you, Tajuana. Hope all is well. Madness, good to see you. Edward, Maria, Showtime, Rodney. Let's make it happen. First things first, we have a game I like, but there's some risk here. Miami Heat going up against the Boston Celtics. 228 total, second highest total on the slate with a 6-point spread. For Miami, no real new injury news. Tyler Hero's out, but everyone else is available. Tough matchup against Boston. We know that. How are you kind of looking at Miami tonight?
Yeah, not my favorite team overall. It is a tough spot for them, but I wouldn't be surprised if this was a competitive, close game with potential pop off. But on paper is not too appealing. I did take a few shots here still. I like Davion Mitchell and Andrew Wiggins the most just due to their lower price tag. Outside of Mitch Rob, we don't have a lot of secure value, I would say. So a lot of these mid-range guys, I want to make sure I target. And they also were popping on the sim model. So put a 10% min on both of those guys. And then I almost faded Bam, but well, we don't know if Vooch is starting or not on the other side, but we know he's not that good of a defender. So with Bam's upside, I was willing to take at least a 5% min shot in this spot. But I really don't like his price tag, and he hasn't been showing too much upside, so didn't want to go too crazy there. And then I thought about Norman Powell, but he's just somebody else who hasn't really shown much upside, and I honestly don't get that ownership.
Yeah, it gets a little weird. Madness said, speaking of the Super Bowl, he'll have a betting and props video up later tonight. So for those of you who are interested, be on the lookout for that because Madness and Mutt have been killing props all year long. So hopefully y'all go out strong. For me, I don't love picking on this Boston team. The starting lineup, when we get that for Boston, that will be super important for me because if Vucevic starts, Bam Adebayo is going to be a leverage play for me. Right now, I have a 20% min on him, but if Vooch doesn't start, that just signals he's not going to see as many minutes as I would like for him to see. Probably somewhere, Madness put it in our group chat, probably somewhere between like 20 to 25 minutes is what I would expect. But if he starts, the upside could be around 30 minutes or so. So hoping he starts. I hope Bam gets a soft matchup. And I always like Bam a bit more when he's lower owned. Outside of that, I don't have a min on any of these Miami Heat players. They're just not very interesting to me because Boston's a team I like to try and avoid playing guys against. I do have Andrew Wiggins showing up naturally in about 13% of lineup. So as of right now, slightly over the field there. Fine with that. Wouldn't shock me if one of these guys end up getting there. And then I have 3% of Davion Mitchell. So not quite the 10% you have, but at least he's showing up a little bit. We know in these close competitive games, there's still some upside. The other side of this game is a bit more interesting to me. Curious to get your thoughts on how you're seeing it. But this is another team that's really healthy. But the difference is Boston, they typically play at a very slow pace. The Heat play at an extremely fast pace. And so that makes the Boston Celtics a bit more interesting because the game environment is a bit better than it usually is for them. How are you kind of seeing it?
Yeah, really, my only priority here is Jalen Brown. I just really like his usage on the team, and his upside, and his price too. I think he should be 10K or more. So the fact that he's under 10K on a four gamer, I definitely want to be aggressive there. So threw a like on him, and he'll be a core play for me as of now. So like him quite a bit. I wouldn't talk anybody off of Peyton Pritchard or Derek White, but it's just something about them. Like I never feel the need to force them in unless Jalen is out, of course. I think it's just because I think they're priced appropriately and there's just not much value you're getting out of them. But they both have nice upside, and in a pace up spot, wouldn't be surprised if either one of them goes off. Curious if they're showing up at all.
Uh, ah,
3% Pritchard, 2% White, so and a little bit of Shireman and Hauser too. So
yeah, get a little bit in there. Rodney, appreciate that update. Juana, you're right. Y'all hit the like button if you're not going to subscribe, which you can do by clicking the link in the description using promo code BDUB, BDUBB. Then at least hit the like button so people know you're watching this. But, it is what it is. And then thank you, Rodney, again for letting us know Cat is out. All right, for me, I keep saying it, the starting lineup will be everything to me. If Vucevic starts, I'll have a 10% min on him. He'll be a leverage play for me tonight. On the other side of this game, they have Keita, who should be involved still, which makes me a little nervous around how many minutes Vucevic will actually play. But if he starts, I'm willing to take the shot that he'll see 30 plus minutes in a matchup I'm not afraid of. And at low ownership, I'm really okay with up to like 20% if he starts. So we'll see what happens there. Derek White, I have a 10% min on. I'm like you though, Brandon. I don't love seeing Pritchard or White in my lines, especially because I think they're a little pricey. I think they're too expensive for Jalen Brown playing tonight. But on a 4-game slate, we know White in particular has 40, 50 point upside, even if it's not consistent. So I'm willing to just have exposure to him with a 10% min. And then outside of that, Jalen Brown is showing up in 60% of my lineups, and I like him showing up that much. He's my favorite stud on the slate, and so I'm willing to make sure that continues to happen. If he falls below 60%, I'm also willing to put a 60% min on him as well. And that's pretty much it for Boston. Good game environment, a game I want exposure to. This next one, though, is weird. Is two really good defenses going up against each other. We have a close spread, but the lowest total on the slate. What keeps this game interesting and viable is the fact that Karl Anthony Towns is out. We officially got that news just a second ago, but he's been doubtful all day. If he's out, we should see Mitchell Robinson move into the starting lineup. And then Cat is a usage hog. So he's going to give pretty much everyone else, like Brunson, Hart, OG, Bridges, a usage boost as well. The other big news here is that OG Anunoby is questionable with that toe injury. If he gets ruled out, we know the Knicks love trying to give us a reason, or they love trying to give Jordan Clarkson a starting opportunity. And so it wouldn't shock me if he starts. We've also seen Landry Shamet start in that spot too. So that would be a starting lineup guy to watch out for. And then if he's out, that's also a usage rate increase to Brunson, Hart, Bridges, those type of guys. And so nothing new here. Jose Alvarado, he's not playing yet for this team. Tough spot, but looks like you like a couple of these guys, right?
yep. So when Cat is out, I mean, I pretty much want pieces to most of their main guys because, like you said, he sucks up a lot of usage. So with him not in tonight, that just makes a lot of these guys very viable tonight. So of course, Mitch Robb, the chalk of the night. I'm not gonna overthink that one too much. It is a tough spot, but he's only 4,300 and will get majority of the minutes down low. So not capping him or anything. I'm at 90%. It's been kind of bouncing around 90 and 100, so I'll be okay with wherever that lands. Threw a like on Huck Porty. Anytime he gets at least 20 minutes or more, he has done really well. He's only min priced. We've seen it too often to where everybody's on like the main value center, and then the backup ends up doing better. So I do love Mitch Rob, but I do want to make sure I have a lot of Huck Porty as well. So I'm at 41%, so I'll be over the field there. And again, with the lack of strong value, I'm definitely okay going over in this spot. OG, I didn't put him in on. He was a late downgrade, so now he's a game time decision. If he does play, which we'll get in time for before the slate locks, I'll put a 15% min on him as well. But for now, just kind of skipping past him. And then, of course, I put a 15% min on Bridges and Hart. They both upsides there with no cat, and even more so if OG sits. So definitely like both of those guys. And then, of course, Brunson fits in that category as well. And then if OG does sit, I will be playing Shamit and Clarkson. I'll probably just match the field there. Won't go too crazy.
Yeah. I like this team because they have guys missing. It's pretty much the context of the slate. I have a 25% min on Ariel Porty. We don't have a lot of great value on this slate, and so he's just one I want to keep in the mix. That's something we say a lot, and I like making sure I have some exposure to him. It looks like we updated ownership, and he's actually showing up around 30%. So I'll increase that to 30 and just be around field weight to him. It's a tough spot, but Duren is probably not going to play tonight, and so that's what makes it easier. Mitchell Robinson was someone I was thinking about fading until I realized, oh yeah, Duren's out. So not officially out, but he's probably going to miss this game. So this matchup's softer than it looks on paper. And so I didn't do anything. He's showing up in about 89% of lineups. And like you mentioned, he's cheap. Outside of that, I have a 15% min on Brunson, 15% min on Hart, and a 15% min on Bridges, just like you do. And I expect that to increase once we get that OG news. So a team I'm going to have a lot of exposure to tonight, more than likely by the time everything updates. And again, lock isn't until 7:30, so we have plenty of time for that news and information to settle and for us to update the DS and go from there. Next up, we have the Pistons going up against the Knicks. For Detroit, Jalen Duren is questionable. This team they played yesterday, Duren got hurt in that game. When Duren is out, we typically see Isaiah Stewart play a decent amount of minutes and Paul Reed see an increase in minutes at the 5. And so we'll see how they operate tonight. Last night, a lot of these guys disappointed in a really good spot. And so I'm curious, are you going back, hitting them heavier here? Or are you a little nervous?
Yeah, I'll be going back, especially since it's only a 4-gamer. There's some guys still on this team with nice upside, especially Cade. Don't like the ownership, of course, and I do like Jaylen Brown and Ant more than him tonight. But somebody like him who can put up a triple-double any given night on a 4-gamer, if he does that and you don't have him, you're pretty much screwed. So just kind of covering my bases there. Tobias and Azar, I keep saying it every time. They're nice mid-tier guys. Azar especially, feel like everybody keeps sleeping on him. I was over the field on him last game, and he put up almost 40 fantasy points. So tougher matchup, but again, with the lack of value, they just help make lines work. And then I threw a 5% min on Duncan Robinson. He's just been in pretty good form, and again, not strong value, so I'm okay with taking a shot on a 4-gamer. And then I threw a good old enrage on Isaiah Stewart. He was popping up way too much. Looks like we updated ownership, but only 2% owned. I'm not going to have 50 plus of Stewart again. So
Yeah, we learn from our mistakes. That's the important part. Not doing that again. I'm with you on a lot of this. I'm seeing it pretty much the same way. The thing with Cade and Tidrona, you're talking about it. He had the Q tag last night. No Q tag today. This team, they're a bit banged up. They're just not fully healthy. They're kind of like crawling into the All-Star break. But he can still overcome that on a small slate. I do still want to have some exposure. So I have the exact same mins as you. Nothing different. Besides, I just put a 20% exposure maximum on Isaiah Stewart. I don't love him. but I'm okay being over the field on him, especially because he usually has a higher usage rate than he did last night. Last night he had an 8% usage rate, lower than I've ever seen it. Literally, he's never had a performance that bad. And so it wouldn't shock me if he does better today, but it's still a matchup I don't love. But Cat is out. And so I'm fine with this spot. I just didn't want a ton of exposure if he's not going to see a lot of ownership. Him showing up in 20% of my lines still gives me some leverage. So I'm fine with Isaiah Stewart tonight. I'm not overly concerned there. Duncan Robinson's interesting. I didn't really look at him too closely, but listening to you kind of talk through your thought process there is making me a bit more interested. So I'll follow you on that and do a 5% min there. Okay. Next up, we have the Pacers going up against the Bucks. This is the game that doesn't have a dominant defense on it, so you can kind of look at both sides a little bit more evenly. For the Pacers, no Zubac. He was traded to this team. He won't be playing tonight, so we should see Huff start and see a ton of minutes, hopefully for the last time. Tired of talking about Jay Huff. And then Micah Potter is questionable. That impacts Huff's minutes some. And no injury news outside of that. How are you looking at the Pacers?
So my top guys, Nimhard, we talk about all the time. I mean, sometimes he has this game where he's not too aggressive offensively and doesn't put up a good score. But when he is aggressive, he has amazing upside, 50 plus point upside, so 7,300 in a decent spot. Definitely willing to be a little over the field, so 20% min there. Jay Huff, I know he's very frustrating to play, but again, lack of value tonight. I'm willing to make sure I have exposure there, especially with Isaiah Jackson gone. His role should be even more secure. Then I threw a like on TJ McConnell. Of course, the biggest concern with him is this right here, 16 minutes. Hopefully he can trend closer to 20, but we know how good of a points per minute guy he is. And if he does get hot, he tends to get a little extra run. So I kind of wanted to be more aggressive there because some more chalk that I don't really understand. I mean, I do somewhat is Jeremiah Fears. I'd rather have way more TJ McConnell than Fears. So that kind of just negates that for me. And then Neesmith, I kind of get that too because he's another 5K guy, but he just hasn't shown much upside. So I didn't feel the need to force 30%. And I think he was showing a little for me, but not at 30%, 2%. So felt quite a bit. And then same with Potter. I didn't feel the need to force him in either. He's a low usage, low upside guy. So
Yeah, just gets a little
yeah.
gross. The interesting thing about the Pacers that I didn't mention is that Mathurin was traded away, and we're not really seeing any massive changes around price tags. And so that's what made the Pacers a bit more viable for me than they typically would be. And I'm forcing exposure to them. Tadrona, man, you are right. The Detroit losing to Washington last night was absolute insanity. I thought that they might come back. Like maybe they're just starting slow and they had a bit of a run, but it never really came together. Blake said Duncan Robinson or Herb Jones. Do you have a preference there?
I mean, Duncan is in better form than Herb. Herb's kind of been trash lately.
Yeah, they're just a crowded team right now, the Pelicans, and so it's a little bit getting tough to predict, and they have a really tough matchup. So I understand your choice there of Duncan Robinson. I wasn't really on either one, to be honest, but now I have some Duncan Robinson, so I guess I'm on the same side as you. For me with the Pacers, I have a 20% min on Andrew Nembhard. I want to be slightly over the field on him. He won't be a core player or anything like that, but I like having some exposure. Aaron Nesmith, I have a 20% min on, so he'll show up in roughly 20% of my lineups. He's someone that I don't feel like I have to be over the field on, but on a 4-game slate, I just like having some exposure. We know we can get hot from the 3-point line, and there's no Mathurin, and so the likelihood of him doing that increases slightly, but still a little sketch. And then Siakam, too. Like, all these guys have burned us all year long, but with Mathurin gone, whenever they have an injury, I've always been more intrigued by them because their usage rates increased and they're a little bit less spread out with their usage rates. And so I'm forcing exposure to their big three, for lack of a better word. Amber, yeah, tactics, not going to happen, unfortunately, for the Super Bowl, but there will be a players club that Kevin will lead tomorrow if you are a member to either DFS Army or to our membership YouTube channel. So definitely be on the lookout for that. KJ, man, there's some teams that play defense. It's just not the intensity of defense as the playoffs, but they play defense. So those are the only men's I have. And then when it comes to actual exposures, Jay Huff is showing up in 47% of my lineups right now. That's just happening because of all the reasons you mentioned. I didn't have to do anything to make that happen. He's just showing up. And then TJ McConnell is showing up in 40% of lineups right now too. And so going to be over the field on both of them. Not overly opinionated one way or the other, but I'll let the DS do its thing there and not over tinker with it. Next up, we have the Bucks, and Milwaukee, Giannis isn't playing. Kyle Kuzma was ruled out, and so with Kuzma out, we should see. Gotta take this one slowly. Gary Trent Jr. I know he's someone that brings a lot of emotions out to some people because he's been in the league for a while and he's burned some people, but he's also had some fantastic nights too. He could potentially start, or Gary Harris could potentially start. So that's one where we need to look out for the starting lineup. Both are they are just low usage rate guys. Typically, they just do a lot of cardio, so they're not super DFS relevant. Bobby Portis, though, is questionable. He's someone that has a high usage rate for this team. Or did we get the Portis news already?
Yeah, no. We got it.
Okay, he's available.
He's playing.
Okay, good. So if Bobby Portis playing, that makes things a lot clearer for this team because he really dominates really in the paint. And then Gary Harris is questionable. I don't think we've gotten that news, have we?
No.
Okay. So, Gary Harris, we only have him projected for about 12 minutes, so it won't change too much, but this team's getting low on forwards and wings, so they need as many bodies as they can handle. Are you playing guys from Milwaukee tonight?
Just a few. I really don't like the price on Rollins and KPJ, which, I mean, KPJ, he only played, I think, we have projected 29 last game and put up 40 plus. So I guess the price isn't too bad on him, but definitely not a big fan of the price on Rollins with KPJ in. But it is a soft matchup in a 4-gamer. So in this spot, I'm willing to at least match the field there. And then Turner, I know he can be a frustrating play too. Isn't always the most consistent, but this front court should be pretty weak. So it's a good spot for him as well. And only 6,400, so I put a 15% min there. I think Portis is too expensive for me. Can he smash in this spot? Yeah, but I like other spots a bit more. And then I don't trust the secondary pieces on here enough to feel the need to force them in.
Yeah. Luckily, all right. See, when you start bringing in different generations of basketball, then you can start talking about defense isn't being played. I watched a lot of that too. If you're comparing generations, then yeah, there's no defense. But for what we're watching, these guys are playing defense. And if they weren't, then we could just play anybody in any matchup and it wouldn't matter. For me, this team's interesting because Kevin Porter Jr. came back and he crushed. Like, he was looking really good out there. But what was interesting was Ryan Rollins still played a ton of minutes. He just didn't do quite as much while he was out there. And in a soft matchup against the Pacers, I'm willing to bet on some of that usage coming back, but not enough for me to make sure I'm significantly over the field or anything like that. It's kind of like exactly what you mentioned. I just want to make sure I have exposure. I have a 20% min on him, and so I'm not even making sure I'm at field weight or over the field. I just have that 20%, and he's showing up in exactly 20% of lineups. So, I like having exposure, but he's not a priority. I do view Kevin Porter Jr. differently because he is cheaper and he has a higher usage rate. And I like this matchup. And so I have a 30% min on KPJ because I want to make sure I'm over the field on a guy that I feel like has a bit more upside given his price tag. And so he's the one I really wanted to prioritize in this spot, but he's still not going to be a core player or anything like that for me. Just a good spot. And the Pacers play at a fast pace. Hopefully KPJ can keep up, still coming back from that injury. Miles Turner is going to be a leverage play for me tonight. He's burned me in this spot before, but forgive and forget, we move forward. His ownership has gone up a little bit, and so I'm contemplating increasing that 20% min to 25%. I will, just for the sake of keeping him being a leverage play. Soft matchup here, no Zubac yet, and a bit of a revenge narrative too, which I'm never mad about. So, yeah, I like Miles Turner here a lot. Outside of that, like you said, I'm never a Bobby Portis guy anymore. I'm kind of over that phase. He does not show up by himself, and so therefore he's just someone I won't have exposure to, but I wouldn't talk you off of him or anything like that. Depending on, did you give AJ Green any thought?
As you were talking, I was thinking about him slightly because he does play a ton of minutes. He's just very shot dependent, so hard to trust.
Yeah, anytime I play him, he sucks, and so I just don't. He does have a very low usage rate, but if he gets hot from the three, he's viable. So no one I'm going to play, but worth mentioning. Pete Nance is someone I'm not super interested in anymore with that price tag increasing. Anyone else you kind of want to highlight, or are we pretty good here?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. Last game of the slate. We didn't mention Sims, but we did mention Nance. Did you think about Jericho Sims at all?
No, I have Huck Porty, so I don't need Sims.
Yeah, that's pretty much my thought process here too. If Turner was out, like Cat is out, it would be a very different story. I would have some Pete Nance and Jericho Sims, but given the context of the slate, they're a bit less interesting. All right, last game here. Highest total on the slate, but also the widest spread. We have the Pelicans who play no defense versus the Timberwolves who play elite defense. For the Pelicans tonight, they are healthy outside of the trade where they got rid of Jose Alvarado, which should solidify minutes for guys like Jeremiah Fears and really Fears and Poole. Their minutes should be a bit more stable, but they've been using pretty wide rotations here recently, and that's what creates a little bit of confusion around what will they actually do. A lot of people are loving Trey Murphy in this spot. I'm curious. I'm still questioning it. How are you looking at the Pelicans tonight?
Yeah, overall, don't love this team. I will be taking a couple shots on Trey Murphy and Zion, just again due to the upside that they do have. Not my favorite spot, but on a four gamer, guys like that, I want to make sure I have exposure to. So only 10% men there. I wasn't too concerned with trying to meet the field. Uh, Fears and Herb, I know they're cheap, which is why they have that ownership, but that'll be some chalk I'm fading. Herb has been starting at the one, and Fears coming off the bench. Usually when he sees around 20 minutes, he can get you around 20 to 25 points, which is decent for his price tag. But again, I'd rather play more McConnell because, like you said, they just play so many guys in their rotations, and he's just really hard to trust, especially in a spot like this. And then Herb has just been in really bad form, but wouldn't talk you off of either one, I guess. I have 15% Herb and 26%, so I still have some exposure to them if they do go off. And then put a 10% man on Misi just because he's really cheap, gets a lot of minutes. They pretty much split evenly with him and Queen for whatever reason, but I know he'll definitely be needed in this spot because opposite side they have Nas and Gobert to try to contend with. So I'm willing to take a shot there, and then couldn't really get to anybody else here.
Yeah. Man, luckily you're those OG like 80, 90 games were so fun to watch. For me, I wasn't watching live, hopefully, obviously. But I used to go back and watch those games and the intensity felt like every bucket mattered. Now it's kind of like, okay, you scored, your turn, you go score, whoever scores. It's just a lot of back and forth, but the back and forth, I lived for that. Luckily, also mentioned taking a chance on the Pelicans, glutton for punishment. See, embracing the pain is something I've always been a big fan of. For me, I'm doing that with the Pacers. That's my embracing the pain because they are pretty good at that. But I understand it here with the Pelicans. Not really the way I'm going about it. I have a 5% min on Misi, kind of like what you mentioned. Just another value guy. He plays pretty much equal minutes to Derek Queen. I think they believe they play him for defense, but they both pretty much suck at that. I don't know. I just don't pick on the Timberwolves too much. It wouldn't shock me if one of Trey Murphy or Zion or Bay end up popping off, but not a spot I love. Herb Jones does show up naturally in about 26% of lineups. I don't love that, but I'm okay with keeping it for now. Just slightly above the field. I just don't have high expectations here, but he could surprise me. Hopefully the DS is onto something that I don't know about. I have a 40% exposure maximum on Jeremiah Fears. I do think his minutes will stabilize with Alvarado gone, but I don't trust him enough to have 80, 90% of him, which is what was happening before the cap. So just being at field weight or slightly below the field is something that I have no fear of doing. And last but not least, you guys are getting to him before I even got there. Spread is saying he should be a complete fade. Jordan Poole without Jose Alvarado. Like you mentioned, they have been using, honestly, they've been kind of playing positionless basketball a lot, this team. And so they haven't needed as much Fears or Poole here recently as a lot of teams would use them as guards to solidify minutes and as distributors. But this whole team can pretty much do that. I wish Jordan Poole's ownership was lower, but beggars can't be choosers. With Jose Alvarado gone, I do think it's still a bit of a sneaky spot, and so I have a 10% min on Jordan Poole. Not enough to, ruin my night if he does poorly, but enough to have a little bit of, oomph. Hopefully he does see more than 10 minutes, though. That would be god-awful if that's what happens. All right, next up we have the Timberwolves side of things. For the Timberwolves, they have one of the best matchups we can possibly see on a slate. For the Timberwolves, the Pelicans don't play defense at all. And so the question, I say this all the time, isn't will someone go off in this game? It's just who. We found out Julius Randle's healthy, and so that takes a little bit of the excitement out of things. Ayo Dosunmu, he was traded to this team. He won't be playing tonight. Julian Phillips won't be playing tonight. And so the world is our oyster here. How are you looking at the Timberwolves?
Yeah, I pretty much want everybody here, minus Bones. I see he's up to 20% ownership now. So if it was cheaper, I would take a shot on him, but I'll let people chase that last game he had. So, but yeah, and it's kind of up there with me with Jaylen Brown as my favorite stud. So threw a like on him and somebody I wanted as a core play. His upside is just way too good in the spot. I know he can be frustrated and he starts slow so often and pisses you off quite a bit. But I'm just gonna play him on a 4-gamer.
Yeah.
And then everybody else, I just kind of wanted to meet the field on. I'm switch Randall to 30 now that we know he's in. I definitely love the bigs on this team. I mean, Pelicans are weak everywhere, but especially down low. So I definitely love Reed, Randall, and Gobert. And then never passionate about Dante or Jaden, especially Dante. But again, it's the Pelicans, so either one of those guys could pop off here. And Jaden's actually been in pretty good form, so I do like him quite a bit. But Dante's the kind of the only question mark for me here. And then, like I said, I'm not gonna try to match the field on Bones. I think that ownership is kind of crazy too.
When I saw the ownership on him, I was like, I get they're desperate for guards, but he's not
Yeah.
even 3K. If he was 3K, hey, fine, I'll be down for this, but that's a little too gross for me. Maybe it burns us, but that's gonna be a pass for me. I am doing a lot of the same thing as you. I have a 30% min on Julius Randle. Rudy Gobert is another big. I'm just trying to prioritize. I love beating up the Pelicans with bigs because we talked about it. Queen and Misi are not great defenders. So having a 25% min on them gives me a little bit of leverage. I've gone back and forth about forcing a little bit more. For now, I'm going to hold steady and just keep what I have because the center position is hard to mess around with too much on this slate. So I'm just going to keep that. Nas Reed, I have a 20% min on, but I think I'm going to follow you and increase that min to 30% because the matchup is so soft. It's just one I want to attack. DiVincenzo, I have a 20% minimum on. I don't love the spot as much for him as I do everyone else on this team, but small slate, I just want to have some exposure. I have a 15% min on Jaden McDaniels, which is a little bit higher than you, but I really just want to attack this team. And then Anthony Edwards has, I did nothing to him, and he shows up in about 47% of lineups, which is right where I want him to be. Kind of like my second stud right behind Jaylen Brown. And just in general, the way I'm looking at this slate is I'm prioritizing Timberwolves, I'm prioritizing Celtics, and then I'm getting a mixture of the rest of these teams because those are two have the best matchups for me. And, I try to attack those when I can. Boss Bruh said, are we getting some point ant? I feel like every team is trying to do this with their studs these days. I saw it last night with Cooper Flag. It didn't give Nimbart the minutes I wanted them to. But what are your thoughts? Are we going to see some point ant tonight?
Yeah, I'm sure we will.
Yeah. And then Bones with Connolly gone. Yeah, I mean, he's definitely a viable DFS play. The minutes should be there for him, at least. Well, we haven't projected for 18 minutes. Let me see. What do you think? Do you think Bones will be more involved with Conley gone? For now, this
I
game?
mean, it's possible if he gets hot again, but I wouldn't expect too much.
Yeah, I don't love it. I'm not playing Bones, but that is the argument is will he see slightly more minutes? And then Jay Huff, we touched on him. I think Jay Huff is, fine, viable, another cheap center we have on this slate before Zubac comes back or joins this team. But do you like him?
Yeah, I mean, he's hard to trust, but for what this slate is, I'll have a decent amount of him.
Yeah. It's a solid spot, but he's nothing special. I'm really hoping, man, this is the last time we have to look at Huff. I really just need Zubac to play every slate. And I think that's pretty much it, guys. If there's any other questions, we can kind of look at them, but I think that's pretty much going to be a wrap. If you need more help, or feel free to reach out in the Discord. We're more than happy to answer any questions there. And, all I can do is wish you all luck so we can celebrate more and take down some contests. Anything you want to add before we wrap up, Brandon?
Nope, I'm good. Good luck to everybody.
Sweet. Peace out, y'all. Bye.